If a council rules the Iron Hands Space Marine chapter, how do they elect a single leader? What Dark Age technology is near their homeworld? And what technology do they use to train without physically fighting? Friends, let's find out, and welcome to another 40k video drawing on the Iron Hands Codex with various excerpts. First we're going to talk about the Iron Council. After the close of the Horus Heresy, at the conclave known as the Tempering, grave concern arose that Ferrus Manus all but destroyed his own legion in a moment of emotional misjudgment. It was decreed that the chapter born from the legion's sundering would never again be imperilled in this way. Thus began the Iron Council's rule, the only voices of the chapter's Iron Fathers coming together in judgment. The first individuals to bear the trait of Iron Father were engineer mystics who maintained the Dark Age machineries of the Medusan clans. These original fathers wielded considerable influence thanks to their vital contribution to life on Medusa and enjoyed positions in the hierarchy of each clan. When Ferrus forcibly introduced his legion to the world they would call home, the rank of Iron Father was adapted by those battle brothers whose duty was the care of the legion's weapons, vehicles and armaments. Though the title has remained constant over the millennia, its meaning continued to change after the Iron Council's formation. By the dawning of M41 it had become an honorific, a title awarded to esteemed individuals who exemplify the chapter's principles. And you also get a badge with a smiley face on it. Many fathers have been Tech Marines, but neither rank nor duty is a barrier to receiving this honour. The current Iron Council's draws form across the chapter, comprising chaplains, librarians, apothecaries, veteran sergeants and even a few notable battle brothers without rank. Every clan company must always have at least one Iron Father among its number, and most will have more. The word of these individuals carries great weight and is often heeded over that of higher ranking officers who are not themselves members of the Iron Council. In other chapters, Iron Fathers would perhaps be proclaimed heroes. However, the Iron Hands scorn the idea of heroes, a notion often concurred with by those outsiders who have borne witness to their ruthless methods. A hero, the Iron Hands argue, strives ever for glory, to bask in adulation for the fulfilling of duty, when duty should be its own reward. The golden statues of Baal and of Ultramar, the sagas of Fenris, these they regard as signs of weakness, of all-consuming pride, cousin to that which claimed the traitor Fulgrim. Thus they watch their brother Space Marines closely, alert for their weakness, blossoming to damnation. What statues the sons of Manus raise, they do so to serve as examples to the battle brothers who will carry their burdens in the millennia to come. Or so they claim. Pride to the Iron Hands is the most insidious of emotions and finds purchase even in a heart burnished to a mirror sheen. In the Iron Hands the position of Chapter Master is not held for life, rather it is an elective honour, one renewed or stripped away as the council sees fit. And so it is that one called Chapter Master Cardan Stronos is held up to the position with agreement by the Iron Council. Now, one oddity of the Iron Council is that representatives from the Adeptus Mechanicus have been granted honorary status upon it. These people are known as the Voice of Mars. The bonds between Medusa and Mars have ever been close, due no small part to the shared reverence for the Omnisire. Never has this been more true than following the arrival of the Primaris, and the further involvement of Magi Biologists into the chapter's Apothecarian. The Adeptus Mechanicus was offered close military ties than ever before during the Tempering, as in it the Iron Hands saw an ally with a mirrored doctrine of steel over flesh who would not fall prey to hubris. And you can definitely see the parallels there between the Mechanicus and the Iron Hands. In particular how they treat normal humans who, it could be argued, for the most part, they see them as things to be turned into servitors or to be used to help them. In exchange for the Iron Hands' alliance and protection, the Martian priesthood would grant them unprecedented access to the sacred mysteries of the Omnissiah, augmenting their Tech Marines' knowledge far beyond that possessed by their counterparts in other Space Marine legions. Beyond the Iron Council, the Iron Hands are structured much like any other chapter, with positions for librarians, and so on and so forth. Like the Iron Council, these individuals are drawn from across the clan companies, ensuring a balance of voices and approach. And even when it comes to weaponry, the Iron Hands maintain no centralised one. Instead, each clan is responsible for the machinery they use, for the maintenance of the transports and war machines they bring to battle. Tech Marines too remain with their clan companies. This forges an unusually close bond with Tech Marines prevalent in Iron Hands' frontline engagements. A further side effect is that Iron Hands rely less on dedicated vehicle crew. As the extension of a clan's company's own might, all Battle Brothers are expected to be familiar with these sort of vehicles, such as Predators, and as familiar with them as they are with a bolt rifle. So that about covers the Iron Council. Let's look at those other areas I mentioned earlier. The Dark Age tech, what a forged chain is, you'll see its relevance in a moment, and how they train without fighting. Of all Medusa's Dark Age wonders, the greatest lies not on the surface, but girds the planet in a belt of crumbling technology. According to fragmented records, the Telerx was constructed to harvest Medusa's mineral riches and convey them into space, perhaps part of some imperial tithe, I will speculate. But even then, there is little clue as to whether that was its original purpose, or merely work to which it was pressed as its systems began to fail. The only certainty is that if the Telerx was ever a glorious sight, those days are gone. Even in Manas's time, the Telerx was an abandoned ruin, a great portion of its being having plunged to thunderous and fiery demise on the worlds below. The last of its systems failed long before the day, and the fragments of technology recovered in the millennia since have clung jealously to their secrets. Despite detailed study by the Iron Hands Tech Marines and their allies the Adeptus Mechanicus, who maintain a score of orbital research posts that pick over the remains like Trox vultures squabbling over a rotting yak. To all appearances, the Telerx is little more than scrap, valuable only as a foreshadowing of the fate that might one day await Mars's rings of iron, and an explanation of how humans came to dwell on such a bleak and unforgiving world. For the Medusan clans are surely the descendants of its evacuated workforce, and yet when those attuned to the wordless thoughts of machine spirits tread the decaying hulk, they feel something, a sense of anticipation, of purpose as yet undiscovered, and of prospects that seem to lie just out of reach. What these may be is as much a mystery in the dark days of the Imperial Nihilus as when the Emperor first arrived on Medusa, seeking one of his lost sons. Perhaps the truth will one day become known. Until then, Tech Marine and Adept of Mars alike continue their diligent studies, awaiting illumination. Now, the forged chains we mentioned earlier. While the Iron Hands use skull studs to denote long service, they also employ the forged chain, taking the form of augmetic vertebrae, each linked by complex strands of neural relays. The forged chain literally puts steel in a Battle Brother's spine. Each one that is replaced in the spine, each vertebrae represents 10 years of service, with particular venerable warriors possessing spines more metal than bone. Each company forged them from their own materials, giving a uniqueness to each one, and so the spine of each Iron Hand reflect the honour progression throughout the chapter. And so how do they train without fighting? That's what we'll look at next. This is done in the Simulus Chamber, arguably the chapter's most valuable and potentially controversial device. Standing in humming banks along the walls of their cherished warships, conditioning decks, each stimulus chamber comprises a harness throne lit with flickering blue electro candles and recessed into an ornamentally frescoed alcove. When a battle brother is strapped into the chamber's throne, neural plugs engage at the base of the spine and plunge the users into a trance-like state. in which massive quantities of data can be unloaded or exploded. And my mind here can't help but conjure images of the Matrix, where Neo's getting all that kung fu stuff pumped into his brain. The Battle Brothers' mind can be stimulated to provide artificial combat scenarios or conduct super efficient debriefs. Further, subconscious strategy protocols can be uploaded to prepare the Space Marine for any eventuality it has been predicted he may face in the field. Rumours persist that on rare occasions, the Seamless Chambers have driven their users insane, the Battle Brothers' minds becoming inseparable from data they were accessing. This possibility the Iron Hands deny profusely. And so let's hope none of them applied for recall to take a trip to Mars, because if the memories of their virtual vacation don't take, they might be lobotomized. On that, friends, we'll wrap up today's video. Comment down below.